How's it going, everybody? My name is Angel Carlos, and today I want to talk about how to make the best offer for your home purchase. So I want to start off with a list that I came up with that pretty much kind of breaks down how to make an offer, and when you do reach this stage specifically, some of the things that you might come across when making an offer. So number one on my list, I have making an offer. If you're considering about making an offer, more than likely you already found the right property or a property that you're interested in or that you really like. As a realtor, some of the things that I do go over with my clients when I do reach this specific phase in the home buying process is specifically going over the contract once again. The certain steps that are required next, usually when it comes to making an offer. So some of the things that you want to go over with your client specifically is the purchase price, some of the seller credits if your buyer is looking into receiving, such as closing costs, also closing date and specific terms of your contract that you also want to go over with your client before moving forward with an offer. But I believe the most important part when it comes to making an offer is being realistic up front. Oftentimes, the certain things that you want to bring up before you make an offer is specifically explain to your client some of the things or the external forces that they might be facing, such as like the competitive nature of the market, such as that there's other buyers out shopping during that time and they might not be the only ones interested in that property, and there might be other buyers looking to make an offer. It's certain things that you actually have to mention to them because these are the certain things you want to bring up front from the start, because oftentimes if you don't mention this, it can end up biting you back, because then say you do move forward with an offer, many times the buyer can really think that they already kind of are moving into the property. So you want to make sure you reiterate or remind them that, hey, this is how the process is going to go. And at the same time, once you do make an offer, that some of the certain factors, as I mentioned before, that they might come across, such as other buyers being interested in the property, the nature of the market itself, and also just keeping in mind that, hey, it's kind of like a Russian roulette type of thing where, we're submitting our best and strongest offer for our specific situation. So some of the things you want to consider before making an offer is you want to remember, and specifically if you're a realtor, you want to remind your clients that they are making the best and strongest offer for their unique and specific situation. And sometimes you might be against other buyers, but at the same time you have to remember that for your unique specific situation, you're only playing with their numbers, right? So number two on my list is response or counter offering. So once you reach this point, you've probably submitted an offer and you're waiting for a response from the seller side. So once you reach this point, you're probably waiting for a response from the seller side. And the specific response that you're waiting for is if your offer got accepted or not. But there are two scenarios that could play out here. It's either your offer gets accepted or approved, or your offer gets rejected or disapproved. If your offer does get rejected, just know that you as a buyer, you have the right to send a counter offer itself. So the seller technically sent you a counter offer, but you also have the right to send a counter offer back. And it's some of the things that sometimes a realtor may not point out from the start. So it's something that you do want to keep in mind, that it's not the end all be all if your offer does get rejected. But before sending a counter offer back to the seller side, one of the things you want to consider or want to keep in mind or take a look into is the pieces of the puzzle. Some of the things are the price. Is the pricing reasonable? Market value? Does it make sense to send that specific price point back when it comes to submitting a counter offer? Number two is the days on the market. How long has the property been on the market? Has it been for long periods of time? Short periods of time? And does it make sense for that unique specific property? And number three, the most important one, is the seller situation. You want to remember, since your realtor is in contact with the listing agent, for the most part, he has the opportunity to ask for the specific seller situation. Do they have to move? Are they highly motivated? Are they waiting for the right price? Or are they willing to just keep waiting until they receive the right offer? So the seller situation is one of the most important ones to keep in mind before sending a counter offer back. So if your offer does get rejected, just remember, you as a buyer, you have the right to send a counter offer back. Even though the first initial offer that you sent was rejected, and it was a counter offer to you, whatever the seller sent, you also have the right to send a counter offer. Some of the things that you want to consider and keep in mind are these things: reasonable price, days on market, and the seller specific or unique situation. These are important to consider because they are important pieces of the puzzle when it comes to making an offer. Even though you are in the counter offer phase, you have re-entered the negotiations phase once again. So just remember, those are important pieces of the puzzle that you want to keep in mind. And also, the cycle continues of counter offers until either an agreement is reached or the parties walk away. And number three on my list is if your offer is accepted. If your offer is accepted, you want to continue on with the next steps. Usually once we do reach this phase or point of the home buying process, I like to go over certain things of the contract and explain the process once again, just because oftentimes when we do get caught up in the negotiations, it's easy to forget these next steps or the following steps that the buyer has to take. but it's always important to remind them. One of the important things you want to mention when you are explaining the home buying process once again is disclosing the earnest money. The earnest money is a sum of money that you put down once your offer is accepted. It shows the seriousness of your offer, and it shows the seller that you are serious about making or moving forward with the offer. And once you have disclosed the earnest money, you also want to remind your clients what are the next steps following this. Usually once you have your offer accepted, you have submitted your earnest money amount. What follows is the AI period, or the attorney inspection review period. So number 4 on my list, I have AI, or attorney inspection review period. Once your offer has been accepted, AI is the next step. AI, or attorney inspection review period, is usually a 5-day period where the buyer has the right to conduct their own inspection, and also the period when both the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney get to review the contract, approve or disapprove of any terms that could interfere with the deal. This is usually the period when all the parties involved get all the document or paperwork in before moving forward with the deal, such as property disclosures, any earnest money receipts, or any important documents that are needed by the lender from the buyer or from the attorney from the seller. And if you're the buyer's agent, this is the period where you really want to talk about with your client about having their inspection. And number 5 on my list, I have parties of the deal. And usually this is a good time to introduce all the parties that will be involved with the buyer's transaction or the buying process. Certain parties you want to mention are the buyer's attorney. You want to make sure they know who their attorney is going to be representing them during the whole transaction. Also, you want to, by this time, hopefully they know you're their lender, because who they got pre-approved by. And also you want to make sure that you do at least disclose that, hey, the listing agent, the seller's listing agent will be in contact with the buyer's agent. And then for the most part, the seller's agent will also be in contact. It's sort of like the buyer's side has the contacts of the lender, the attorney, and the realtor, and then you, the buyer. But then also on the seller side, it's the same thing, almost identical, where it's like the listing agent, the seller, and then the seller's attorney. And it's also really good to discuss about certain vendors that will be part of the deal as well. More like third party or outside vendors, because when it comes to this point, you really want to explain to them that there's also an inspector that's going to be involved in the deal, and also an appraiser. So certain little parties, vendors to the deal that you want to actually disclose to your client before moving forward, just so it doesn't come as a surprise.